Ladies and gentlemen, podcasting since 2005. You're listening to Gamertag Radio. With your hosts, podcaster Hall of Famer Danny Pena, the always opinionated Paris Lilly, and from outside of the norm, Peter Toledo. This is Gamertag Radio.
Welcome to Gamertag Radio, episode 1022. This is your host, Danny, and joining me this week, we have Paris here. Paris, what's up, man? Quarantine continues.
I know quarantine talk, man. We've reached peak quarantine level to the point I've completely rearranged my office. I now have my Xbox out in the family room, and I watch TV with headsets on. That's where I'm at with quarantine.
And this is the first time you actually took your Xbox to the living room, right?
Yeah, I've never hooked it up to my main TV out in the family room, and it's a pretty kick-ass media center. I have to admit, I really like it, and I use the Dolby Atmos setting with headphones, so I'm out there in the living room watching stuff with headphones on as loud as I want, and my wife doesn't get mad, so it's great.
That's good. Now, Paris, we've been having quarantine talk now for how long now? For a couple weeks on the show, right?
A couple weeks, and it's starting to get crazy. So I think,
yeah. This is why I'm excited about this episode, because we have the senior editor at Windows Central. I'm a huge fan of the website. We have Corden here. Jez, what's going on, man?
Hey there, how's it going? Yeah, it's all good, busy, cracking on. I think we're all going a bit crazy with all this quarantine stuff going on, but you got to keep on pushing. Keep calm and carry on, as the British say.
No, but first of all, just want to say thank you for joining us, man. I hit you up a couple of days ago, and you were like, "Sure, let's do it," because I know you have a crazy schedule. And actually, shout out to Rand. I read his tweets like, "Oh my God, Jess is gonna leave me for GTR." I'm like, nah. But I told Rand that I would love him to be on the show too, man. And I'm always watching his YouTube videos and also the podcast.
Yeah,
you guys record.
Yeah, Rand's a good guy. He's far better at this than me. I just sort of like he's like the host who ties it all together, and I'm just like when he prompts me to speak, then I'm like, oh yeah, that's the thing.
Awesome, man. So we have a lot of things to talk about, man. So first thing first, everybody, head over to gamertagradio.com. Listen to our past episode. Also, you can find us on any podcast app. You can check out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio. Just search for Gamertag Radio. We're there. Subscribe, follow us, or even post a review. It will help us out. Also, if you have any questions for fan mail, here's how you can contact us.
Send us your feedback or questions. Give us a call at 786-273-7GTR. Email us at fanmail@gamertagradio.com or leave a message on speakpipe.com/gamertagradio.
All right, Paris. So first thing first, Paris, before we start asking questions to Jazz about, quarantine talk and all this announcements coming up in the future, I know we talked about this very quick. Your thoughts, man? Xbox Game Pass, Red Dead Redemption 2, man.
I'm actually glad you went there, because that's why I kind of wanted to go first, and not so much what my opinion is. I'm actually very curious what Jez thinks, because I saw the news this morning about Red Dead Redemption 2 coming to Game Pass, and I go, wow. They're adding more value to this from the third party perspective. And the way I look at it is, we already know that Game Pass, hey, day and date, all the Xbox stuff is going to be there, which is great. But the more value they can add through the third party stuff, and of course, it's not going to be stuff that comes out day and date third party, but like we talk about Nier Automata as an example, right? That's a game I didn't play when it came out, but now I get to play it and it kicks ass, right? Hellblade is another one I talked about, earlier this year that I discovered because of Game Pass. And now Red Dead, even though I have already started playing it on PC, to see it come to Xbox, I know there's a ton of people out there that hasn't checked it out, and it's like almost a no-brainer. Why not? But like I said, I'm more curious what Jez thinks about just Game Pass and this announcement. So if you could enlighten us, sir.
Well, this is an interesting one, really, because there's a lot of games that hit Game Pass that are kind of like a no-brainer. It's like your first-party stuff. That's kind of like your Netflix originals, right? That's like what you use to incentivize people to join the service, is because those games are like exclusive. They're guaranteed to be on Microsoft platforms, and they're guaranteed to be in Xbox Game Pass. That's kind of like the unique selling point of the service. But like for Red Dead Redemption 2, I often wonder like, what are the mechanics of this kind of deal? Because the game's been out for a while. It's sold millions of copies already. Like the so-called hardcore have probably already purchased it and played it and moved on from it. So this potentially gives it a new audience to play with. People who perhaps they're more thrifty with their money, or they want to save their money and they wait for games to hit Game Pass before they come out. I often wonder, like, is there a new type of gamer that's coming out as a result of Xbox Game Pass? And then I often wonder, like, how much money does Microsoft pay for those kind of games? Like, it's... I honestly wonder if there is actually, like... I mean, it makes for a great headline, but I'm just wondering if it leads to more conversions and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? So I'm kind of unsure about it.
Yeah, I get exactly what you mean. And I guess the way that I look at it is it may not necessarily attract new people to the service, but the people that are subscribing, it gives them more justification to keep being a subscriber. You know, the next time that their subscription is up, they're like, well, wow, I know I get all the Xbox games, but hey, there's always going to be this quote unquote big third party game that might drop in there that I may not have necessarily picked up when it came out. I don't know. I've said for the last few years, to me, it's the best value in gaming. You know, if I'm an Xbox gamer, if I know I'm going to play games on Xbox, it just seems like a no-brainer to pick it up because it's $120 a year. I'm going to buy at least 2 games a year. But that's me. I guess I skew more towards the more hardcore person. But then I look at what Phil Spencer has been saying, and they're trying to... He doesn't want to call it the Netflix of gaming, but this is kind of what it is. It's getting people to try things that they wouldn't have tried before, and it's worked on me as an example. So I'm sure it's working on other people as well. And even looking at my timeline today with the Red Dead announcement, I saw a lot of people saying, "Oh, now I can play it. Now I can play it." So there's definitely an audience on Xbox that hasn't picked it up, who now feels justified because they already have Game Pass that, okay, I'll go play it now.
I think like I think you hit the nail on the head when you said like it's you know, it gives people an opportunity to try it for the first time. But I think like for people like us who've maybe played it already, and probably a lot of the people listening to this show, there are other things coming to Game Pass that make more sense, like the whole Game Pass perks feature. I don't know if you saw this, where like you get perks for certain games. I think like there's some free skins or free currency in some free-to-play games. I can't remember off the top of the head. I think it might be like World of Tanks and stuff like that. There's only a few games in there now, but like as the service grows and expands, like you can imagine like maybe for people who already own Red Dead, maybe they'd get some currency in-game for Red Dead Online or something. Microsoft can do those kind of deals. And then beyond that, you've also got Project xCloud, which is streaming games to your mobile device and stuff like that. Microsoft have basically hinted that when that service actually goes live to the public, it's in preview now, but they've hinted that it will be tied to Game Pass in some way for what library of content it gets. So, again, it kind of makes more sense if that's the service that you use to, monetize xCloud, and then it comes sort of full circle, because then you can capture all kinds of different audiences with one subscription, and like you say, it's probably the best deal in gaming right now, and it's only going to get better when they get perks and xCloud in there and other stuff.
So I'm sorry, Danny. Yeah. And I know I talk too much, but I just want to throw this in real quick.
Okay.
So it was also interesting that Grand Theft Auto kind of swapped out at the same time that Red Dead is coming in. So it kind of goes back to what you're saying. There's clearly some kind of deal that they're having, and I don't know, whatever financial incentives going on with there. But you brought up Project xCloud and Game Pass. And Danny and I were just having this conversation offline the other day. It seems to me it's probably going to be tied to Game Pass Ultimate, because that way it's that all-in-one bundle of you're getting gold, you're getting Game Pass, you're getting, xCloud, everything, $15 a month. And that to me seems to be the sweet spot thing that they can sell to people that may not even necessarily want to get an Xbox, but want to play Xbox games, because now you can play it on your PC or you could take it wherever you go. So that's how I kind of look at it. And one last thing, because I'm real just curious your thoughts, because I've always said this: Xbox doesn't care about you buying an Xbox anymore. They're really have changed their model into being a services company, because clearly that's Microsoft as a whole, Office 365 and all that. They care more about you being a subscriber than you buying a Series X or air quotes S on day one, this holiday. So I'm just curious what you think on that.
But Microsoft, under Steve Ballmer, the previous CEO, they did try to chase that Apple model of, we'll have exclusive services and then sell premium hardware on top of it. And they had this plan to have Surface as their sort of premium devices and then Lumia as their phones and stuff. And we all know what happened there, right? But the truth is, you make a lot more money if you go where the customer is, especially in cloud services, because you can just put the service literally everywhere. And if you're targeting Android, which has 1 billion or more active devices, it's in the billions, put it that way. I don't have the exact figure, but that's just a ridiculously large audience to be ignoring if you're focusing primarily on your own hardware exclusives. And they call it the intelligent edge. And that's basically their services philosophy, is that there's this sort of cloud, a diaspora of different devices that they can just feed their services into and get a subscription out of. Right now, we only have xCloud on Android and a very limited test on iPhone, on iOS, but you can envisage easily in the future you'll get it pre-installed on your Samsung smart TV, and Microsoft have gotten in deep with Samsung recently with services and stuff like that. And it's currently in closed testing for PC too, PC as well. So even your low end hardware, ARM based PCs which couldn't run any serious games, you'd be able to play Xbox games on any sort of PC device using the app. So it just gives them the kind of volume that they could never possibly achieve with consoles. And there's a school of thought that the console market has sort of maxed out. It's not really growing. And if you look at charts and trends and stuff like that, you see mobile being the really big audience that everyone's trying to capture. Even Epic Games this week, after years of talking about how evil Google is for wanting to take a 30% cut on Google Play Store, they've had no choice but to put Fortnite on the Google Play Store this week, because it's just a huge audience that you're just ignoring otherwise. So it is what it is. But the cool thing about xCloud is it doesn't detract from the Xbox as a platform, because you still need to use the Xbox developer environment to make those games. So in a way, every xCloud node, every person playing xCloud on an Android phone, they're still using in terms of a developer, as far as the developer's concerned, that's an Xbox player, because they've still got to make an Xbox game to serve them that content. So in a way, it grows the Xbox platform, even though it's technically not Xbox hardware at the end point. It's still Xbox hardware in the cloud. So it's kind of a win-win scenario, really.
Now, my question to you, now in the future, let's say 2-3 years from now, if you have an X or an S, you will be able to play games that's only exclusive for those consoles, right? But what are the chances, which I think it might happen, is if you still have an X or an S, the original Xbox One, you can still play those games, next-gen games, on those devices, but using Project xCloud. Do you see that happening too?
I totally see that happening. They've kind of hinted at that happening as well. I don't know if you've seen, but there's a feature on the the current Xbox operating system where I can't remember off the top of my head again. It's kind of like it lets you play the game before it's finished installing. And right now, the way that works is the developer has to sort of build their game in such a way where they can give you the important parts of the game up front and you can start playing it, and then it installs the rest while you're playing it. Well, the way that will work in the future is you'll click play the game now, and you'll just start playing the game. You won't have to wait for it to install because it'll stream the game from xCloud while installing the full game in the background. So like there's that aspect of it too, like instant discovery, which is kind of like, again, it comes back to Phil saying that it's not the Netflix of gaming, but it really is, because it's like instant gratification. If you don't even have to download the game, you can just stream it. It's that instant gratification that you get with Netflix and binge gaming and stuff like that. Next Gen's all about eliminating barriers to gaming. And that's why we've got like SSDs making everything faster and eliminating load times. And xCloud will eliminate download times as well. And I'm sure that'll come to Xbox, the past gen consoles, like you say.
Now, I know you've been writing a couple articles that's been getting a lot of attention the past few days. One has been the rumors about the digital events that we might see in May and in June for Microsoft. And I know also you talked to a lot of developers that wanted to give you feedback about the Xbox Series X and so on. So, but let's start with the rumors about the digital events in May and in June. For those that haven't read your article, what are the ones from the rumors that has been getting the most attention from your article?
Well, this is it was more like a collection of rumors and then sort of extrapolating some other rumors that I've heard from my sources, because I believe it was originally Dealer Gaming and Randall419 on YouTube who brought up this topic of a May event for game showcase potentially. Now I haven't heard that specific information, but what I have heard from various sources is that the so-called Xbox Lockhart, the Xbox Series S, the cheaper version of the Series X, that is hitting take-home status for Microsoft employees either this week, last week, or very soon. So the fact that these sort of May showcase rumors started coming up, coupled with the fact that I'd heard that Lockhart was hitting take-home status, that kind of made me believe even more that Dealer was right. Dealer and Rand were correct. And also on our end, we'd heard that Microsoft was planning Surface events to showcase new Surface hardware at the start of May. Around the same time, Rand and Dealer were talking about this May event for Xbox, and I was just kind of like, this is too much of a coincidence for it to not be true, you know? So, and then you got Phil Spencer teasing on Twitter a few hours ago, prior to us recording this, that we won't have to wait much longer to hear more about games. So I think it's like, you know, they say there's no smoke without fire, right? I think it's almost certain we're going to get something in early May at this point.
Yeah. Barris, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I do, because you're touching on one of my favorite subjects, and that is Lockhart. Because and again, I'm just so curious your opinion on this. I've been pretty clear that I'm not a fan of them doing Lockhart, especially in year one, if that winds up being the case. I understand they want a low cost option. I understand that the Xbox One X, which probably could be Lockhart, won't have the SSD, and maybe that hinders some development things, parrot and all that. I understand that. But I just think it would make more sense. And again, this is where it comes into price and everything. If they can get that Series X to $499 or less, I understand they would probably want, okay, we have Lockhart for $299, but who is that for? As far as, are you still promoting 1080p to people, 1440p? Is this where you're trying to promote that? Or why not just stick with the Xbox One X for a year or two And then as the price lowers on Series X, just promote that more. I don't know. It's like I could argue this all day, but in a nutshell, I'm just very curious what you think. Does Lockhart have a place in year one for Xbox here in the next gen? And does it make sense to you?
It does make sense to me. Purely on the basis that, like, even though, like, people were pretty adamant that the Xbox One S all digital edition, for example, was pointless and a waste of time, but it's actually sold really well in the end, which you know, is no surprise, because to a lot of people the only thing that really matters is price, understandably. Yes. And you know, there are things that next gen will have that are simply impossible with current gen hardware. Like, you talk about the SSD and, you know, needing a modern CPU to do a lot of this stuff. The fact of the matter is, these next-gen consoles are going to be really expensive. Like, $499 is the absolute best I think people can hope for. I don't think it'd be lower. I think both systems are going to be $499, personally. Maybe with the Xbox Series X being slightly more expensive, but I'm expecting $499 for both, personally. And that does sort of price a lot of people out of the market. Now, they were doing this before the whole quarantine stuff, but there's also that argument that people are going to be economically stretched more than usual this year. So it makes more sense than ever for them to have a low-cost option. But, you know, I think they've basically taken what they've learned from the two-pronged approach that they've had with the One S all digital, and the One X, and decided that it works for them, and you know, it's a good option moving forward. Smartphone manufacturers do it. You know, they've got like a phone for every price point, and you know, it makes sense. It just makes sense to me. I think like it comes back to Game Pass too. Like, there's the reason console as a market hasn't really grown is because it tries to tell people how they should play, and it should be like, you got one console option, you've got to play it like this, you got to do it like that, blah blah blah. But it comes back to Microsoft's philosophy about meeting consumers where they are, and it's like, if they're on their phones, and especially a lot of gamers in the East, they just like, they don't have really a culture of playing games on a console. I think like a lot of us in the West, a lot of it comes back to nostalgia in the 90s and stuff like that. But some of the countries out there, like, they never have that sort of console culture, and they're more mobile oriented, which is why like xCloud has seen a lot more attachment in countries like South Korea, for example. And I think that's where Microsoft's ethos is. Like, let's meet consumers where they are. Let's like push xCloud in Asia, which is why, like, you know, you've got Xbox Game Pass coming to Japan, because that's going to be a vehicle for xCloud over there. And it's like, let's have a low cost option for meeting gamers where they are economically or financially, you know. And I think like Microsoft have really nothing to lose as a company, and it's like, it's not really a big expense for them to do that and have a sort of split console profile, whereas like for a company like Sony, where maybe it's more of their bread and butter, they're sort of maybe a bit more wary to do it. But I don't know, it could prove to be a mistake at the end of the day, but I don't think it is, personally.
Yeah, I appreciate the insight on that, because like I said, the way I look at it is, you're already telling your audience your Xbox One is going to stay relevant for at least, let's just say, another 18 to 24 months, right? By the time that it is no longer relevant and you need to fully embrace Series X, as far as just the, you know, like I said, the SSD, the higher speeds, all that, to me, that seems like the time to introduce a Series S, so you still have a low cost option, but maybe they don't want to manufacture the Xbox One. Maybe there's other things involved, and they're going that. I totally get it. But I do want to kind of transition into your article that you wrote, where you had the various developers talk about the Series X and what they were expecting from it as far as their excitement level goes. And, you know, it's it's exciting to see because I mean I'm primarily a PC gamer. I just built my own, so I'm going all with the NVMe drives. I can't even say it right, but looking at what Microsoft is doing customized with that, just the speed wise, and even PlayStation for that matter, which is even more fast than that. I mean, it really looks like like we're truly entering that next generation of gaming. Just from what they're going to be able to utilize from a speed standpoint, because a lot of things that normally they had to have in memory, they're going to be able to offload to that SSD now. And that really excites me. So I don't know if you wanted to go a little in depth on the article that you wrote and just some of the insights that you got from the devs that you spoke to.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, this was kind of inspired by sort of every now and then you saw like an article with like this developer said this on a forum and stuff like that. Or they said like an offhanded comment here and there, and I just thought like what would it look like if we got a bunch of devs to just note down what they were most excited about when it came to next gen. And first, I just want to thank like all the developers that took part in that, like Hinterland Games and Rebellion and the Coalition and Snowden Studios and such. It was a bit humbling actually that they took the time out, but I think like generally it feels like the thing most of them were excited about were the potential in the SSD, like you say. Like the PlayStation 5's SSD is faster, but it's like even compared to when you compare it to like a regular mechanical hard drive, the Series X SSD is so much faster than what we've got right now. And it's some of the stuff like Rebellion was saying, like because they don't have to load as much into memory, they can run it off the SSD. It means they can just add more animations per mob. Like, like in Resident Evil, when you get grabbed by a zombie and it's always the same animation every single time. Well, they're saying like they could stream in the extra animations from the SSD now. So like instead of seeing the same grab animation every time, maybe there's like 100 variants that they can load in instead. And that's one thing I never even would have thought of. That's a benefit of an SSD. But there's also stuff like, the ray tracing stuff, which is also going to be a huge driver of what makes our games look more dynamic. Realistic lighting and shadows and stuff like that. I don't know if you've had chance to play the Minecraft RTX beta yet on your PC.
Yes. I have. It's just the lighting changes and it's phenomenal.
It's quite special, right? It's like if even like Minecraft's not known for being like a graphical powerhouse, but the fact like that ray tracing completely changes the experience. It's pretty huge, right? And I was running it off I've got like an RTX 2060, which is like the bare minimum that it can handle at like 50 frames per second or something. And the ray tracing looks fuzzy and stuff on the RTX 2060, but it's like such a huge boost. So like being able to see what it would look like on a higher end system with like hardware accelerated ray tracing, which is what the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 have. It's exciting. It's an exciting prospect to see what that look like in higher definition, because I frankly can't afford a PC that could do it justice, But Microsoft and Sony are bringing that to, $500 devices, which is great in my opinion. But then you've also got stuff like what Rebellion said about using ray tracing for audio, which is something I never even realized was a thing, but it makes sense, right? Like the way that they can use ray tracing to realistically reverberate sound in an area, which can make stealth games feel more realistic too. Like the enemies will hear sounds more realistically. Like right now, it's kind of like it's like an area of effect, right? But they'll be able to like do realistic sound bouncing off a room and stuff like that, and it's just exciting. Like the amount of creativity this will enable is just exciting, And but we need to see the games now. We've been talking about specs for months. I want to see the proof now.
Yeah, and speaking about games. May is coming up. It's coming up. So here's the theory that Paris and I have been going back and forth for a couple episodes now. I was telling Paris, hey, Paris, Phil, he said this on our show. They want to make bold moves, instead of showing the same games they've been showing every single time that they have a reveal of a console. Why not show new stuff? Surprise us, So I mentioned this to Paris. I'm like, hey, you know what? The new Fable game, I think it will be great. A great way to start in May. And then in June, go crazy, all out, announce games that we have no idea that's coming out. But I think Fable will be a great introduction to start the hype, right? So do you think it's better for in your opinion, do you think, Jez, that it's better for Microsoft to wait and just go all out in June, and in May just talk about maybe the Xbox Series S and show maybe Halo Infinite and Forza, in your opinion, or no?
It's I don't know. It depends how much stuff they've got to show, and they are investing more than ever in this stuff. Like more than in the company's history, they've never invested so much in first-party gaming content, and that's kind of like the benefit of Phil being on the senior leadership team now. That he can request those kinds of budgets, which Xbox has never had before. They've never had access to those kinds of budgets that you need to compete with Sony, who are frankly putting out some seriously high quality games, in recent years. If they've got a lot to show, I think like it would be cool to have a sort of teaser event, like you say, maybe show off Fable, something classic. I mean, Fable's the industry's worst kept secret at this point. You might as well.
Yes.
You might as well give it to us.
That's what I was saying. I said that too.
Or maybe they could do just sort of like an in-engine teaser like they did for Halo Infinite last year for Fable, and then show us gameplay at the sort of more E3 like June event. But I don't know. I need to see what the lineup's going to look like. But I do want to see some actual gameplay footage too. Maybe you show like Fables as a teaser, and you show us Halo Infinite gameplay, or maybe Halo Infinite should be like the main event. I don't know. I just I also want to know what the gameplay of Hellblade 2 is going to be like. Like, is that going to be more of a game now, or is it going to be another sort of artistic walking simulator-ish piece again? And then you got your Forza. Like, what's that going to look like this time? What the hell's the initiative working on? There's just tons of stuff we don't know. And I'd love to be a fly on the wall at Microsoft HQ.
Oh, trust me. Hey, you know what? That guy, I have this crazy theory too, which I'm definitely going to mention this to you to see what are your thoughts about this. So when we had Phil on our show, we talked about.
I knew you were going to say. Okay, go ahead.
we talked about a lot of things, and I brought up True Fantasy Online, this game that was coming out for the original Xbox, and it got canceled. So I mentioned that to him, like, hey, what was the reason that game got canceled? Because that game it had a lot of potential at that time, right? So we started talking, and then out of nowhere, he starts talking about Sega and Phantasy Star Online 2 that's coming for the console. I believe this was like maybe a couple weeks right before the open beta came out. But he was like really praising Sega the whole time. And I'm like, So then I go back and I'm listening. I'm watching the press conference at E3, and right there they show Phantasy Star Online, for the first time there. People have been waiting for that game for years, right? So then I'm thinking about it. I'm like, wait a minute, hold on a second. Streets of Rage 4 is also a game that's coming out, and it's going to be available on day one on Xbox Game Pass. Yakuza, another game that you could actually play all of them now. Actually, right now they have only 2 available on Xbox Game Pass. But I've been seeing like this close relationship between Microsoft and Sega for the past year or so. And I feel that we might see a partnership where you could actually play all their games on Game Pass, on Xbox Game Pass, or we might even see games that hasn't been developed in years, a reboot to come back for the new console. So like, let's say a game like Jet Set Radio, we might see the return of that game or something, all exclusive for the console, and also maybe PC. But what do you think about this theory? Because I've been seeing some teasers between these two, especially Xbox, when it comes to that, about Sega.
They are quite buddy lately, aren't they? You've also got Sega Studio making Age of Empires 4, don't forget, with Relic. So
that's right.
A lot of people, there's like all these sort of wishful thinking rumors that Microsoft might buy Sega and stuff like this, but I think what it might be, it's probably all about Game Pass again, right? Because I think if Microsoft's ever going to crack Japan, it's going to be through Game Pass and xCloud. And that means you need like Japanese content to be on your service going forward. So that's like Yakuza and stuff like that. And Sega has a lot of other sort of properties that sit in that sort of, realm of appeal. And, Persona as well. Like, Sega published Persona, which is something that's always arbitrarily missed Xbox for some reason. So it's sort of like, is that a way to get in with some of these, Japanese outlets like Atlas and stuff like that? And I think it's more of a strategic partnership, maybe getting closer to them and stuff like that. But Microsoft's always been fairly close to Sega. They worked together on the Dreamcast and stuff in yesteryear. So I don't know if there's I don't know if they'll formalize it in any way. Like Sega and Microsoft are now, Game Pass partners or something. I don't know if it'll be a formal partnership, but I do think they're gonna continue working together heavily. It's kind of like the relationship Microsoft has with CD Projekt Red. They've been very close as well in recent years. Like CD Projekt Red has been contributing to Microsoft technology, and Microsoft just announced that whole Cyberpunk merchandise lineup as well. So, yeah, I don't know. It would be cool if there was something deeper there, but I don't know. I think it might just be sort of a surface level sort of partnership, I guess.
Okay. Paris, go ahead, man.
I like how you just swing it to me off of that one. I figured you just crushed your dreams. No, my thing is just real simple because again, I've been watching your work for a while, and I really respect and admire everything that you do over that Windows Central. But I'm curious why, because I also listen to you on the podcast. I'm curious why you're not a fan of Banjo-Kazooie coming back. I did hear you say that. Don't think I didn't.
Shots fired.
Now, I would like Banjo to come back for the fans, right? Let's be diplomatic about this. It's Rand. It's Rand who doesn't want it to come back. Like, Rand, like, I don't know what it is with Rand, but he hates, like, all Nintendo games, anything that's colorful and happy. I think he just doesn't like it. I'm kind of the same. I don't like games where I can't murder things, and I don't know what that says about me. But like, I was playing like Animal Crossing for a little while, and I was like, man, I can't even kill any of these bugs. What's the point in this game? So like, I had to stop playing it. But I'd love to see Banjo come back. Honestly, I think it like diversify the lineup, especially the first party stable. I think Banjo's got like a huge following, and it's just only been boosted by the inclusion in Smash Brothers, which is something I never thought would happen. I thought like, because Rand was telling me on our podcast that he'd heard that Banjo was going to be in Smash Brothers, and I was like, nah, no way. Microsoft won't do that, because if they did that, then they're only going to fuel demands for a reboot, and I think Microsoft would rather leave IP dead if it was like had no plans to make a game. So I think like the fact that it's in Smash Brothers kind of boosts the possibility of it having a full-blown reboot or remake or something. But I wouldn't be against that. I think like there needs something, but I also do question how many copies it would sell. It'd have to be like really good It'd have to be really, really good, because I don't think even ukulele did that well.
Yeah, that's what you guys were talking about. That was your justification. You're very well. Ukulele sold like crap, so this is going to sell like crap too. Yeah. My thing is, I look at it this way. Like going back to last year, I remember at that E3, like Danny and I, they're going to announce Banjo. That was like our big thing what they're going to do, and it wound up being Smash Brothers, which is fine. But like you just said, it just fueled the anticipation that, okay, they're doing something with Banjo. Banjo has to be coming back, here in the near future. Maybe they're, obviously saving it for launch of the Series X or right after, something like that. But I think a fun, and I think you're the one that had the poll on Twitter. I remember someone had the poll and I even said that. Yeah. But having a family-friendly, platformer, Banjo is perfect to slot in there. Of course, like you said, it needs to be really good and they need to do it right, especially after this long amount of time that it's been out. But when I look at the Xbox portfolio of games right now, I think you would agree over the past 7 years, it hasn't been the best. So they're really, with all these studio acquisitions and all these IPs that they've been sitting on and doing nothing with, it's a perfect time for something like Banjo to come back. And then bringing this full circle, it's a part of Game Pass. You're going to get people to try it that probably wouldn't have tried it any other way. So I think it's perfect. Bring it back. Don't hate
it. No, I'm all for it. I just want them to do it. Like, if they do it, they got to do it properly. They can't just like hand it off to a small second party studio and give it a minimal budget and just be like, do the bare minimum.
I agree.
They've got to really aim for like your Mario Galaxy sort of level 3D platformer. They've got to really aim high and add lots of features and like tons of, meme-worthy mechanics and sort of capture that sort of zeitgeist online audience and stuff like that. They got to really go for it. But I often wonder if Microsoft has the drive to do that sort of thing with that kind of game. It's kind of like they'll put all their effort behind a game with multiplayer, but I don't know if they do it for something like Banjo. And I wouldn't want them to half. Are we allowed to swear on this podcast?
I did. That's fine.
You beep it. Yep.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say I wouldn't want them to half, which is a British way of saying like put half effort in. Yeah.
No, I'm 100% with you on that. And then I look, and I know these aren't like directly Microsoft first party, but I look at Ori and I look at Cuphead, and they've clearly, you see the TLC that's been put into those type of games, and I would fully expect they would do something similar with Banjo. But you also touched on one thing, and not to make this an Xbox versus PlayStation thing, but I think that's part of why PlayStation has been so appealing this generation is their games aren't necessarily where we're all just focused on multiplayer. We got to make sure the multiplayer is right. They've made these IPs that are single player focused, and that seems to be their great appeal. They're exclusive games that you can only play on their platform, and it's obviously worked. I mean, we've seen the numbers, and Microsoft has simply not done that this generation. And I really, really hope, forget Banjo for a second, whatever the initiative is working on, whatever else, all these studios that they've acquired, Obsidian, etc. I just hope we get more single player focused experiences from them. I mean, I even look at the Outer Worlds from Obsidian. I know that started before the acquisition, but that's perfect for the type of thing I want to see come from them, so I hope they keep doing it.
I think it comes back to what I was saying about meeting customers where they are, and it's a double-edged sword, right? It's like meeting customers where they are means like you do have a subset of customers who do like single-player games, and Microsoft clearly wants to meet them where they are too, which is part of why they went for Obsidian and In Exile, because they excel at single player experiences, and stuff like the Outer Worlds 2 will be an Xbox platform exclusive, for example. But at the same time, previously, when they were working with less of a budget, meeting them where they are meant going after your Call of Duty and your Fortnite and your Minecraft, basically. Like where the players are is multiplayer. And multiplayer has this way of virally marketing itself, because you want to get your friends to play it too, and they get their friends to play it, and they get their friends to play it. And like, look at the way Valorant has exploded, over Twitch and stuff like that. And it's this sort of multiplayer virality, which you do get to some degree with a single player game. Like, you had lots of people streaming Final Fantasy VII Remake, for example, but it dies off very quickly, So I think previously Microsoft had less of a budget to play with. They were more reluctant to make a game that couldn't hit that sort of multiplayer critical mass, the kind of user bases we see that come with multiplayer games like Fortnite and Call of Duty. But now they do have things like Game Pass as a vehicle to monetize those kind of games. I think it makes more sense for them to pursue that now, and I think they will pursue that now, which is why, I don't think Hellblade 2 is going to have multiplayer, for example. I sure as hell hope not. It's funny.
That'll be depressing. That'll be very depressing multiplayer.
I've actually got in my article ideas list, one of them is are we returning to the era of tacked-on multiplayer? Because for a little while it felt like every game was okay, we've got our single-player campaign, but we also need to have a multiplayer. And we had things like Tomb Raider with multiplayer and Dead Space with multiplayer, things nobody really asked for, and they might have been okay to play for a little while, and then we got Resident Evil 3 with Resident Evil Resistance, which nobody really asked for. And I don't know. I hate tacked on multiplayer. If you're gonna do multiplayer, do it properly.
If I could flip this, because this actually leads me to another thing, I'm very curious to get your thoughts on Halo Infinite. I personally feel that this is the most important game Xbox has ever made, right? But flipping it, clearly multiplayer has obviously been the thing that has carried Halo, over the years. But it was the campaign that got everybody to the table, if that makes sense, right? And we look at Halo 5, they dropped the ball. There's no question about that. And I know there's various rumors out there about Infinite right now and everything, but from your standpoint, how important is Halo Infinite going into this next gen, and even more specifically that campaign, whatever it's going to be?
Well, as you say, Halo 5 missed the mark. It was a bit I don't know, uninspired, and the sort of, I think the marketing campaign as well was problematic for its promotion, because it was this sort of bait and switch thing where it was.
Oh yeah,
the marketing campaign really confused me when I was actually playing the game. I was like, this is nothing like what the marketing said it was going to be.
Exactly.
Yep. Yeah. So that was weird, but Halo 5's multiplayer carried it through, because a lot of people still play that and enjoy it and stuff like that. And we have seen a bit of a Halo resurgence in recent years because of them putting it on PC, which again is meeting players where they are, right? And Halo Infinite obviously will launch on PC alongside the Xbox and give it the best chance to really capture that sort of huge audiences that we see from, those franchises like Fortnite and Call of Duty. But it's like you say, the campaign has always been a pillar, and the lore of the game has always been a huge pillar. And I think that's something that needs respect, right? And I think a lot of people play Halo for two different reasons. Some people are only interested in multiplayer, some people are only interested in the campaign. Me and Rand argue about this because he's really into Call of Duty campaigns. I never play them because I find straight military drama kind of boring. So I just go straight to the multiplayer. But Rand goes straight to the campaign and doesn't really touch the multiplayer, which I find crazy. But I'm the opposite with Halo. I'll play Halo's campaign, but I'm not really interested in its multiplayer. So for people like me, and I presume there's millions of us, we want to see a solid campaign from Halo. And I honestly, I've never been the biggest Halo fan, but I do see how it's sort of it's like Xbox's Sonic, right? It's like Xbox's Mario. It's their mascot.
Yep,
it's their flagship gaming product, and it needs to showcase the best of what Microsoft is capable of when it comes to making games. So I'm intrigued to see if they can pull it off because, like you say, Halo 5 wasn't particularly great. And they've got a real opportunity with Halo Infinite to really sort of turn the corner and put that chapter of low budget games or rushed games behind them and sort of pivot into a new era of quality games from Microsoft. And I think Halo Infinite should be the first game that does that.
Yeah. I mean, this is the first time that we're going to see a Halo game launching with a console since the original Xbox. Because they haven't. The 360 was Perfect Dark, and for Xbox One there was nothing really like that. So yeah, I think this is going to be a very, very important game for Xbox, man. Yeah. So I know. I also was checking out your article, and you posted like a concept of the Xbox Series S.
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to be something like that, or do you think it's going to be totally different? Like the concept looks awesome. It's like half of the size of the Series X.
Yeah,
I think it will be something like that, or no?
I've got no idea what it looks like exactly, but like I've heard that it's surprisingly small in volume. So like it sounds like it's going to be fairly small, which is why I posted that render, even though I don't know if it's going to look exactly like that, but I've heard that it could be similar in volume. So like it's been described to me as being like, I don't know, shoebox-ish, but smaller.
Yeah. It reminds me of the GameCube. Kind of like that when I looked at this concept art. So it might be smaller than that, maybe. That'll be cool.
I don't know if it'd be smaller than the GameCube, but I don't know. I've heard that it's going to be pretty small. It sounds like it's going to be sleek anyway. But again, no idea. I'm expecting that we'll see it very soon. Like if they're shipping them out more broadly, like someone in the supply chain or someone somewhere will leak something. Do you remember that, like the ports leak of the Xbox Series X on someone's carpet with all the serial numbers on it? Oh man,
when was this? What was this? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, like a few months ago, someone leaked the back of the Xbox Series X prototype on the floor on a carpet. And
you're right. That was the end of last year.
Yeah,
year, I think it was.
They didn't censor out any of the serial numbers and stuff. And I was just like, oh no, that's not how you leak something.
Oh man.
But, I think we might see something like that for Lockhart at some point. But
yeah,
hopefully Microsoft gets in ahead of that and actually announces it in proper fashion. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, if the May rumors are true, I mean, I guess that maybe this is why Phil Spencer's been hinting at it on Twitter today that, like, look, let's just go ahead and get ahead of this now because it's going to leak out anyways, which I think that's also why the DualSense came out for the PlayStation, because they were worried someone was just going to leak it anyways. So I don't know. You know, like I said, I've already given my 2 cents on Lockhart. So at this point, I just want to have an open mind with it, see exactly what it's going to be. You know, could there potentially it be an all digital version of it as an example? You know, do they lean on the fact that it can do 4K, but it's going to be the, what's the word I'm looking for that they do to upscale to 4K? I'm blanking on the name right now, but you know, maybe that's the case with it. Cause I guess what the rumor is, it's going to be like 4 teraflop thing or something like that. Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
we actually, I think we were the ones that said it was going to be 4 teraflop originally.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
And that information, I was super nervous about posting that information because I didn't have a huge amount of Lockhart information is really hard to get. They've played that system really close to their chests. And like the information I had was like 12 teraflop for Anaconda, which is the Series X, and 4 teraflop for Lockhart, you know. And the Anaconda specs were way easier to verify, but like the 4 teraflops came with the same batch of information as the 12 teraflop. And like when they said, yeah, it is 12 teraflops, then I became more confident that the 4 teraflop figure was accurate. And, you know, a lot of people say that it will hold back development and stuff like that. But I don't think it will, because, you know, if you look at the Steam survey a huge amount of PC gamers still play at 1080p. A huge amount of PC gamers don't have SSDs. So, like, you're going to get low-end PCs holding back game development more than anything next gen. Because if Lockhart does have the, NVMe drive, which we expect it will, that's the main area of sort of creative evolution that the next gen systems provide, and you can't achieve with the One X. Like, even though the One X has more raw, teraflops or whatever, potentially, there's things you can do with the NVMe drive that you just wouldn't be able to get on the past gen, and those 4 teraflops too are RDNA flops, which are, as I understand, calculated differently to GCN teraflops. It's all very confusing, and I leave that stuff to Rand to explain. I don't get it.
Well, and that's the thing, and that's why all of us right now speculating, looking at tech specs isn't going to matter. I've contended, regardless, Series X, PlayStation 5, end of the day, all these games are going to look the same anyways, right? So it's not going to matter.
You're going to get you're gonna get Digital Foundry going over the pixels with a fine tooth comb, and people arguing about the anti-aliasing on the ray traced sun shafts and stuff like that. But it's like, at the end of the day, both consoles are going to handle games great, and I don't think there's going to be a situation where PlayStation 5 games look significantly worse. I don't think that's going to be the case at all. But the Xbox Series X should provide an edge if that's what you were into. But the important thing is that Sony has driven Microsoft to be more competitive, which is why they're pushing for hardware, which is why they're investing in content. That's why competition's so important. It stops these companies resting on their laurels, right? And we're going to get a better Xbox for it, and we're going to get a better PlayStation for it, and we've had a better Nintendo for it. Nintendo's gone off completely off on a tangent and made what is arguably one of the best consoles ever in Nintendo Switch. So competition makes the industry interesting, which is why some of these fanboys just drive me up the wall.
Thank you.
I mean, we say this on the podcast all the time, and I'm glad you're on here to basically echo the same thing. It's look, I just love the games. I don't care what platform it's on. Just give me amazing games. At the end of the day, that's all that matters. The technical aspects of this, that, and the other, I really don't care, because like you just said, the Nintendo Switch arguably is probably one of the best consoles of all time. And it's not a technical powerhouse. It just does what it does great. And Nintendo's arguably the best developer in the world. And so this is what you get. I don't know, man. I'm super excited as we go into this next gen, and, just sticking more specifically on Xbox right here. It's clear they've been gearing up to this moment. Everything that they've been doing since about 2016 has been for this moment. Get all the services in place, get the hardware right. It's almost like if you look at the Xbox One X now, it was just a test case for what they were going to do here, obviously with Series X and all that, So I'm excited. It's like, if you want to play on a console, great. They're going to have something for you. If you want to play on the PC, great. They got something for you. Cloud streaming, everything. I'm excited. And it just comes down to, what are they going to show here in the next couple months for the games? As long as the games are there, I think we all win. And it's like you said, it comes back to competition, because I bet you PlayStation is going to have some banging stuff too. And that's all that matters.
They're going to bring, they're both going to bring fire. PlayStation is going to bring fire. And sorry.
No. Now I'm listening.
I was just saying, it's Microsoft who've got a lot to prove here.
Wait. Can you repeat that again? Because I swear to God, I'm going to clip this and put it on Twitter. Say that again, please.
It's I've said it loads of times. Microsoft's the one that's got a lot to prove when it comes to
Okay, people
games.
get mad at me when I say that. That's why they get mad.
Yeah, I don't get what I mean. It makes sense because they struggled during this generation. They've gotten better throughout the years, but they have a lot to prove, especially when it comes to the games. So that is correct. Sure.
I have sunk hundreds of hours into Microsoft games this gen. I love State of Decay 2, but for example, but you can't deny that the game has some quality problems. Shall we say?
Crazy bugs, yeah.
It's it's not just bugs. It's like fidelity of the graphics and the animations and stuff like that. It as fun as it is, I want to see AAA quality from those kind of games, and that's something Microsoft hasn't been able to deliver that well this gen. Like Crackdown 3, for example, was like we had all this hype about cloud power destruction and all stuff like that, and it just like didn't pan out. Like the game, the base game was just not great by modern standards. If it came out past gen, it might have gotten a pass, but it just wasn't great. Like they've only really had Gears and Forza to lean on again as their sort of big pillar cinematic high quality games, and at the same time they have put out some really great experiences that people have spent thousands of hours playing in. Like I know people that have got thousands of hours in State of Decay and thousands of hours in Sea of Thieves and stuff like that, which maybe they don't capture the imagination of sort of what high-end gaming can look like. But I think that's what Microsoft has to deliver, is that sort of expectation of the platform holder to bring that kind of quality that we see out of Sony so consistently. And I don't think it's a problem to admit that if you're an Xbox fan, It's not a problem to admit that. You should want that of your platform holder to try harder for you, If you're on that side of the fence and you don't play on everything, you should want and expect them to do better, which I think it's important, And that's why competition's important.
I have 2 more questions for me. One is, why do you think Microsoft's been super quiet about Lockhart? In your opinion?
It's a price play, right? I think like Lockhart is some sort of, it's a strategic option where it's sort of like, I think they really want to make sure that they're getting the price on that thing correct, which means knowing what Sony's going to price the PlayStation 5 at. Because one of the things that people were really super critical of Microsoft for with the Xbox One S or Digital Edition, colloquially known as the Xbox One SAD, was the fact it was too expensive. And the fact of the matter is, removing the disk drive doesn't shave that much off the retail price. It's like a disk drive costs, what, $30, if that? So, like, but the thing is, psychologically, it feels like you're losing a lot to remove the disk drive. So when you could get, like, Xbox One S bundles that were the same price as the Xbox One S all digital because Amazon just had an abundance of stock or whatever, it kind of screwed up the whole proposition, which is why the Xbox One S all digital edition only started selling really when that got deals too, and it was going down to like $200 and stuff like that, and it did sell out Black Friday last year, if I remember right, because of it had reached that price that people thought it was worth. And I think one of the reasons Microsoft is reluctant to talk about Lockhart is because they really want to nail the price, and they really want to know what the price is and what the story, because Lockhart's story is its price. Without the price, you might as well put the focus on the marketing for Xbox Series X, because like if you're not giving the price of Lockhart, all you're doing is saying we've got a less powerful Xbox for you here. You have to be able to say this is how much it costs before you announce that console. And it's in that vein that I think like there's a possibility we might not even see Lockhart in May. Even though I wrote down it's a strong possibility, I think it's possible we might not see it as well, even though it's hit take-home status, because I really think the exact price is the whole narrative with that console. So I don't know.
Do you think that it's also is because they want to surprise Sony when it comes to announcing that console? Because it's like similar to like smart delivery, which they announced that a couple months ago, where if you buy, let's say, Cyberpunk on your Xbox One, you could play the same exact game on the Series X.
Well,
So
it won't be much of a surprise
because
at this point.
At this point, no. But I'm just saying. I mean, to me, yes, I think price is the number one reason, but it also is like a game of chess. I think they're trying to keep this quiet as much as possible and announce it in a time where Sony is not expecting for this console to be announced and also to come out the same exact year as the Series X.
I think that's where it comes. That's why I want to. I mean, I obviously don't know what Microsoft's thought process is sometimes. Like, sometimes Microsoft does things which totally baffle me. Oftentimes, Microsoft does things that totally baffle me. But I would like assume that the whole narrative about that thing is price. And if, like, Sony comes out and says PlayStation 5 is going to be $499, and then Microsoft comes out and says, well, Xbox Series X is going to be $499. And if you want like a more affordable experience, we've got this for you at $299 or whatever. And I think like that would be a very, very strong position to take, but it only works if you've got those prices. And I think like without the price, there's no point announcing Lockhart yet. So we'll have to wait and see what their thinking is on that.
Yeah. And my last question is about this wireless headset. I know you also talked about a little bit on. Yeah, what's that about?
See, this was like totally random. Like I got some information that Microsoft was working on a headset. And my immediate thought was, oh my God, they're going to do VR. But then when I looked into it a bit more, it started to sound like audio. And then when I looked into it even more, it actually did come back that it is audio. So like this headset sounds like it's going to be the Xbox answer to the Surface headphones. So like the Surface headphones, one of the things people were asking like immediately of us when they announced the Surface headphones was, is this compatible with Xbox? And of course the answer was no. But it does sound like this headset is basically Microsoft's answer to the Surface headphones, where it's got Bluetooth. So supposedly it has Bluetooth and it's compatible with mobile devices. So, your xCloud, you got that covered. And it's also going to be compatible with Xbox. So like you've got Xbox wireless signal in there as well. Some of the things I don't know is like, is this going to be premium or is it going to be entry level? Because Microsoft's 2014 stereo headset was very much entry level. And it looked cool and it felt nice, but it was like $30 and the audio wasn't that great. The drivers weren't that big and stuff like that. So like Microsoft could either go like super high end with this one as to not sort of compete with their some of their partners, because I think like right now Turtle Beach has a monopoly on affordable wireless. Like I think like the Turtle Beach Stealth 600 is the best selling wireless headset for Xbox right now. I don't know if Microsoft would necessarily want to undercut them, because obviously Turtle Beach, they do a lot of good business with Microsoft. So like one thing Surface product line always does is they overprice their stuff. So like they don't annoy their laptop partners like HP and Dell and stuff like that. Like a Surface device, they're kind of like aspirational, right? You buy them if you're a fan of the brand more than anything. Kind of like I'll annoy people if I say like an Apple product, but kind of like an Apple product, You buy them if you're a fan of the brand, but if you really research laptops, you might be better off buying a Dell, a similar Dell, which has maybe more power while also being cheaper. So this is like a really long roundabout way of saying like I don't know if it's premium or if I don't know if it's entry level. But it could go either way, I think. I think it might just be like, I think my gut says it's probably going to be entry level.
Were you going to say something, Paris?
Oh, yeah. No, we actually think the opposite. I actually do think it's going to be premium.
Maybe.
I think the fact that you can grab any headset you want and just simply plug it into the controller is probably the low end mark. So why not? Why not go for something? The fact that it does Windows Sonic, it does Dolby Atmos headphone, things like that. So why not go for that ultimate premium experience? I mean, it's optional. You don't have to get it.
The Surface headphones are $300. So like they're like a super premium product. So if it's basically using the same manufacturing process as the Surface headphones, but just with Xbox branding, then maybe it's going to be a premium. I mean, I would like it. I would like to see Microsoft do premium audio. I think that'd be interesting. I never bought the Surface headphones because I just thought there's no way I'm paying that much for like headphones that I can't even use on my Xbox. You know, like what's the point? But you know, a headset that could work with everything with Xbox branding, that sounds compelling. As long as they don't put like ridiculous gamer patterns or flashing lights on.
Yeah, let's hope not. Let's hope not. But the more that I'm thinking about it, because clearly they're going with this series line of things. Obviously, with the console, we have the controller now, and yeah, why not a series, whatever they're going to call it, for the headphones and market it as a premium experience,
like like Xbox Elite headphones, Series 2 or something. I mean, it could work. You know, basically the only premium headset you can get for Xbox is the Astro A50, which is $300, which is what I'm using right now. Actually, I really love this headset, but it's hard to recommend because it's like $300 for a headset. You know, and there are really good headsets you can get for far cheaper. You know, like the Turtle Beach Stealth 600. They're $100, and they're really good for what they are. You know, you don't get all the bells and whistles, like you don't get a charge dock, and you don't get like configurable profiles and stuff like that. But it's got mic monitoring, it's got decent audio, and it's got really good battery life. So it's like $100, bang, done. So I think like if Microsoft comes in at the high end, that's what I'd like to see, because there really aren't many options there at the high end. It's like I think the Steel Series 9X is $180 off the top of my head, I think. And then you've got like things like the Lucid Sound LS35X, which is like $150. But there's only the Astro that goes up to $300. So, I mean, would you pay $300 for an Xbox branded headset?
I wouldn't do it. Personally, not me. Honestly, I'd rather just buy a console or something, or games, or you know, I can invest on that. I could actually buy a Switch for that amount of money. You know?
I would be the ultimate hypocrite to say that I wouldn't, seeing that I'm literally talking to you right now on some $300 Astro A50s. I mean, yeah, they gave it to me for a review, but I would have been willing to pay that. So yeah, I probably would.
Okay. Well, Jess, you want to say anything else, Paris? I was going to ask.
No. I mean, we've obviously gone an hour here. We've taken up way more of your time. So we truly appreciate you coming on and talking some Xbox.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun, man. A lot of fun. And I'm definitely going to be checking out your articles, man, especially now, man, that, you know, May's coming up, you know. But before you leave, if you have to mention 3 games that you would like to see either in May or in June revealed from Microsoft, that as a fan of their games, which ones you would like to see the return of those games?
So this is annoying because I know for a fact none of these are going to happen. I'd love to see Lost Odyssey 2 out of Microsoft.
Yes.
Lost Legacy.
Yeah.
No, but Paris has a joke with that, but he called it Lost Legacy to Phil Spencer during the interview. And we were like, no, it's Lost Odyssey. Yeah.
But yeah, like I'd love to see that come back, like the team that made it, and like, you know, it'd be a perfect game for xCloud too, because turn-based and it's latency agnostic, and you know, and Microsoft needs Japanese style games. Like, to me, it makes perfect sense, but you know, to Microsoft maybe less so. I'd also like to see Phantom Dust for the same reasons.
See, I love Phantom Dust. A lot of people didn't like that game. That's a great game.
Phantom Dust had like awesome concepts and like such a cool world and really cool gameplay mechanics and stuff like that. And the fact that they sort of announced this reboot and then ripped it away was frustrating, but again, I'd love to see that come back. And I know they're fans of it internally, but sometimes these things, like, you need the right studio at the right time. And you know what? I'm going to cheat and pick 4 games. Sorry.
Okay, go for it. Go for it.
Also, MechAssault. I want to see a modern MechAssault game. Like, I know we got MechAssault. Is it MechAssault 5 or MechWarrior 5? I can't remember. But like, there's Piranha Games is working on a new game in that universe. I can't remember if it's MechWarrior, MechAssault 5 or whatever. But I want to see Microsoft, one of Microsoft's big budget studios, work on MechAssault IP. And I know that the MechAssault IP has like all these kinds of crazy legal problems surrounding it. Like there's a real question about who owns the rights to publish games based in that universe. And it's messy, I think. I wouldn't be the way that Microsoft talks about that IP. I wouldn't be surprised if like they've lost some documents somewhere or something that they need. But I don't know. But I'd love to see the Coalition make a MechAssault game, honestly, because they do like that sort of diesel punk style so well. I think like they would be a perfect choice to make that game on the Unreal Engine too. I think they'd really kill it. And then the fourth game is Killer Instinct, because I really loved Killer Instinct, and Killer Instinct 2013 was one of my favorite E3 announcements.
Yeah.
It was
Same
like
here.
when that
Let's go.
music kicked in, I was just like, I can't believe they're doing this. This is incredible. Like went straight back to my childhood, you know. And they had like a couple of seasons, and it was at Evo, and then it passed out of Evo, and you know the game sort of fell by the wayside. But I find Killer Instinct to be so criminally underrated by the fighting game community. I would really love to see that IP sort of. I think if they'd launched it on PC at the same time as they launched it on Xbox, it probably would have done a lot better than it did. But they won't make that mistake again, I guess. Hopefully we'll see Killer Instinct 2 someday, but alas, who knows? But yeah, that's me.
I have one bonus question for you because you brought this up, but I'll first sneak in. I won't give my 3 games. I'll just say one game I would love to see come back, which I always thought was way underappreciated, is Cameo. I would love to see Cameo come back. I really think they could do something with that IP. But the question I have for you is Japan, because we didn't get into this properly during the previously. I can't even talk. I'm sorry. But Japan, do you think they potentially could have their own studio in Japan? Is that something you see happening on the horizon?
It's tough because it's all logistics at the end of the day. It's like, who do you get to run that studio? Like, who has the oversight and stuff like that? And working in other regions seems to be a huge problem at Microsoft in general. Like they struggle so bad with localization, and that's why PlayStation has completely dominated Europe, is because Microsoft is so Anglo-centric, and they only really seem to cater properly to their US and UK audiences, and like Canada and Australia and stuff like that. And it's a shame because they are passionate fans all around the world, and I talk to them all the time. Like, you know, you can't even like search for games that have like South Korean language support on the store. Like you can't even do that. Like South Korean Xbox gamers, they maintain their own Google document of what games have their language, you know. And you don't have that problem if you're a PlayStation gamer because they're catered for properly in other regions. So I think like for Microsoft to crack Japan, they first have to take localization more seriously across the board, which is something they're just not good at as a company. Like even like in their other products and services, they're just not good at it. Like if you use Bing US, for example, it's so much better than any other Bing country. And it's kind of like, are you serious about competing with Google, or is this just a game to you? It's just a joke.
Right.
You know? It really does feel like the world outside of the US doesn't exist for Microsoft sometimes. So I would like to believe that they could take that stuff seriously. And I'm sure, like, you know, I don't want to be harsh to Phil because Phil's a great guy. And I know Phil would like love for that to happen. But it's kind of like, it's a case of Microsoft's entire culture as a company needing to shift maybe, and having the resources to get the right people in place to build up that momentum to sort of get a strong base in Japan and have that sort of investment there. It's not easy, you know, when you sort of like, you're not in the culture. So I want to believe that they can achieve it. And I think xCloud and Game Pass will be a great vehicle to do that. But, you know, it's tough, man. They've never had it easy in Japan. And one studio alone wouldn't be enough. So it's almost
that I definitely agree, but it almost just seems like they got to start somewhere, obviously. So maybe if they were to, basically have boots on the ground in Japan, and obviously continue working with Sega and Platinum Games and maybe some of these other Japanese studios, and just start catering more to that audience to actually try and get people to invest in that service. I did find it interesting that Phil went out of his way again during this last Inside Xbox they did to mention that they were going to have Game Pass ready to go day one over there as well. So we'll see.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, Jess, I just want to say, man, thank you for taking your time, man, to be on the podcast, man. And I know this was super last minute. I told him, hey, man, so you want to be on the podcast? He's like, hell yeah, let's do it. So it was really cool, man. And hopefully we could do this again, man, in the future, man. It was a great conversation overall, man.
I'm a big fan of you guys, and you're always super supportive on Twitter, and I really appreciate it.
Thanks, man. You want to mention the website and also social media if people want to follow you?
Oh, sure. Like, you can follow me at Twitter at JazCorden, JZCorden, or, check us out on Windows Central, or check out my podcast, Xbox 2, on YouTube or podcast services. And thank you so much for having me. It's been fun. Sorry about my voice. Like, I think I'm got a bit of a cold coming on. Hopefully it's not that cold. Okay.
No.
Right.
It's all
Touch
good.
wood.
It's all good. All right, everybody. So head over to gamertagradio.com and listen to our past episodes. Also find us on any podcast app. Just search for Gamertag Radio. Also, you could send us questions or feedback for fan mail, and here's how.
Send us your feedback or questions. Give us a call at 786-273-7GTR. Email us at fanmail@gamertagradio.com or leave a message on speakpipe.com/gamertagradio.
And that's it. Until next time, we'll be back Monday. We have another cool episode coming up. Details coming very, very soon, but I can't wait to release them. So until next time, we're out. Peace.
Thanks for listening to Gamertag Radio. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.